All right, council member, we are live on YouTube and you can begin when you're ready.
Good morning. I'm Robert White, council member at large and chair of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. Today is January 6, 2022, and we are meeting remotely via the Zoom teleconferencing platform. The time is now 11:01 a.m. I'm calling to order this public hearing of the committee. Let me apologize in advance for the sinus issue that you will hear throughout this hearing. The topic of today's hearing is Bill 24-246, Rehiring of Retired Officers by the Department of General Services and the Department of Parks and Recreation Amendment Act of 2021. Chairman Mendelson introduced this bill on behalf of the mayor. I understand that the impetus of this legislation for DGS was the need to improve recruitment for the Protective Services Division, or PSD. Right now, DC government employees who meet various tenure requirements can earn a pension when they retire. This is an important benefit, and I'm glad we do this for the long-term security of our public servants. It also helps us recruit and retain talented people to work for the district. But our pensions are subject to some important limits. Most relevant for today's discussion, DC Code Section 5-723E says that if a retired MPD, Metropolitan Police Department officer, takes a different DC government job, they cannot continue to receive pension payments in excess of the normal salary for the new job. Similar restrictions apply to other DC government pensioners, such as teachers. As a general matter, I think this is a very sound rule. To the extent that the point of a pension is to ensure a person's financial security, the need for that is much less when the person is continuing to earn a DC government salary. Better to put the taxpayer funds to other uses until the person actually retires from government service. And to the extent that the point of a pension is to attract and retain talented talent, offering double payment for rehired pensioners would actually undercut the program. An employee would have a strong incentive to retire from their first job at the earliest opportunity and then go get a different job, even if it's in the district's best interest to keep that person in the first job where they've built up valuable specialized skills and knowledge. But the code contains limited exceptions to the no double dipping rule. Under certain circumstances, former MPD officers can go work for the Department of Forensic Science Services or as a security officer in our public schools and keep receiving pensions on top of their new salaries. Bill B 24-246 would extend similar exemptions to former MPD officers hired as DGS PSD, Public Safety Division officers, or, quote, for a safety or security position of DPR, or the Department of Parks and Recreation. Now, for this particular bill to become law, it will need to pass through at least 2 other committees before coming up for a series of votes before the full council. DGS is within this committee's jurisdiction, hence this hearing today. The Department of Parks and Recreation is under the jurisdiction of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs, so the bill would later go before that committee for further consideration. The council chairman has also referred this bill to the Committee of the Whole due to its oversight of the Retirement Board and invited the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety to offer comments because the bill involves law enforcement personnel. After conversations with Director Anderson, I agreed to hold a hearing on today's legislation so that the administration has an opportunity to make their case for this bill. I look forward to a conversation today with Director Anderson and Deputy Director Toppin. Specifically, I want to understand why they view this legislation as necessary, what skill gaps they are experiencing, why they view retired police officers as the right talent pool to fill those gaps, and why this additional financial incentive is necessary to attract those retired officers. I appreciate both the director and the deputy director being here and look forward to the discussion with them. I will now call up we have no public witnesses today, so I will call up our government witnesses, and I want to recognize DGS Director Keith Anderson and DPR Deputy Director Toppin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Director. How are you doing?
I'm well.
Good, good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Good morning and Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year, Deputy Director. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you. It is the practice of this committee to put our government witnesses under oath. So I would ask that anyone who is or may be testifying to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Procurement Facilities is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you, Director Anderson and Deputy Director Toppin, have you all decided who will testify first? Will just one of you testifying? How do you want to handle this?
I think I'll go first, Mr. Chairman, and then Deputy Director Toppin will then testify as well.
All right, wonderful. You can proceed.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman White, council members, and staff of the Committee on Facilities and Procurement. I'm Keith Anderson, the Director of the Department of General Services. I'm here today to present DGS testimony regarding Bill 24-0246, the rehiring of retired officers by the Department of General Services and the Department of Parks and Recreation Amendment Act of 2021. I am joined by Gina Toppin, Deputy Director for Recreation Services for the Department of Parks and Recreation, who will be providing testimony explaining the benefit of this legislation and her agency. This legislation, as introduced by Mayor Bowser, would permit retired Metropolitan Police Department officers to be hired by the Department of General Services Protective Services Division without impacting their retirement benefits of the retired MPD officer. PSD provides 24-hour security services that support district government operations, protection of employees, resources, and facilities at approximately 840 district-owned and leased properties, including the Wilson Building. Services include patrol operations, contract security guard management, electronic security systems, and access control. PSD also assists district and federal agencies during special events and criminal investigations. In addition, PSD is responsible for responding to additional security requests from other district agencies. ASRs can be for temporary events or permanent security enhancements. The ASRs are for additional security are processed by the Administrative Services section and approved by PSD command staff. These services are indispensable in support of government operations, and I want to take a moment to thank our entire PSD team for their service to the district. As the committee is aware, PSD has gone through some personnel changes over the last few years, giving DGS the opportunity to assess the recruitment and hiring for the division. While there are a number of qualifications DGS looks for in PSD candidates, we have found that some skills are particularly specialized and have a very limited candidate pool. These skills include canine handling, internal affairs investigations, knowledge of DC code, and experience with the district's communities and unique security environment. However, while PSD is not a policing force, retired police officers typically do possess these skills. In fact, we have noticed that our qualified candidate pool often includes candidates who have security experience gained from officer service in other jurisdictions or in the federal government. But while candidates from other jurisdictions may have most of their appropriate experience, they do not have specific knowledge of our community. As we have been reminded constantly over the past year, the district is a unique jurisdiction with specialized and dynamic security environments. Given this reality, possessing local experience is a major advantage to having a successful tenure in a PSD position. Unfortunately, retired MPD officers who have strong qualifications as well as experience in the district are required under current law to offset their salary at a new position by the amount of their retirement benefit. This situation discourages retired MPD officers from taking a position at PSD, and as a result, these individuals rarely apply for vacant positions within the division. In fact, retired MPD officers currently have a major financial incentive to leave the district and perform security work in other jurisdictions. This legislation before you today would address this situation by allowing a retired MPD officer employed by PSD to receive a full salary and full retirement benefits from previous MPD service. We believe this change would result in a stronger, deeper, and more localized candidate pool. Considering the district security environment, allowing PSD to access the best possible local candidates for vacant positions is critical for the division's continued growth. This legislation would create that strong candidate pool in line with my goal to position PSD to continue its positive trajectory. I know the committee is also invested in making sure that PSD is set up for success. DGS looks forward to working with the committee and the full council to move this legislation through the process in support of PSD. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this measure. I'm happy to answer questions at this time, but I believe Deputy Director Toppin will testify as well this time. My apologies.
Thank you, Director. And Deputy Director Toppin, you can begin when you're ready. You're muted, Deputy Director.
Hey, good morning, Chairperson White, members of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities, and members of the public. I'm Gina Toppin, Deputy Director for Recreation Services for the Department of Parks and Recreation. With the support of Mayor Muriel Bowser and Deputy Mayor for Education, Paul Kahn, I'm here today to testify on behalf of DPR to urge you to approve Bill 24-246, the rehiring of retired officers by the Department of General Services and the Department of Parks and Recreation Amendment Act of 2021. Bill 24-246 will help DPR and DGS use the district's homegrown talent to fill critical positions supporting the district's comprehensive public safety approach while advancing our agency's unique missions. DPR's mission is to level the playing field by providing equitable access to gold standard recreation programs, services, and facilities that improve residents' health, well-being, and overall quality of life. We execute this mission using DPR's most valuable resource, our staff. Bill 24-246 authorizes DPR and DGS to hire retired Metropolitan Police Department officers as full-time or part-time employees without jeopardizing their retirement benefits. Under the current law, if DPR or DGS hires an MPD retiree, the retiree must offset their salary by the amount of their retirement benefits. As a result, MPD retirees who wish to serve their communities in a new capacity are incentivized to pursue work in neighboring jurisdictions or the private sector, leaving agencies like DPR and DGS to draw on talents from outside the district to fill vital positions that ensure public safety at our facilities. Through the years of on-the-ground experience, MPD officers gain a holistic view of district communities and understand the multifaceted dynamics of violence. This knowledge and the community connections to MPD officers MPD officers develop is highly transferable to safety and community relations positions at DPR, such as our urban park rangers, roving leaders, recreation center managers. These DPR employees regularly engage residents in healthy and positive activities and support a welcoming environment across our facilities. In addition, individuals with MPD experience have specialized expertise that can significantly enhance DPR's ability to serve residents. For example, in 2020, DPR hired its first ever investigator, a former MPD officer. This individual developed a systematic approach for investigating incidents at our facilities with knowledge and skills acquired while at MPD. Having an investigator on staff expands DPR's ability to respond to emerging issues and legal inquiries while improving our overall customer experience. In addition to DPR's direct experience, we have seen similar approaches work for other agencies, such as DC Public Schools. For example, DCPS has successfully hired school principals and teachers as substitutes. Decades of classroom experience, a toolbox of teaching skills, and a lifetime dedicated to education equip these retired individuals to support students in classrooms when their teachers are away. Retired MPD officers stand to contribute to DPR's workforce in a similar fashion. As you all know, public safety is a pressing concern for the district and a top priority for Mayor Bowser. Unfortunately, the district continues to experience high incidents of violence, with several shootings occurring nearby DPR facilities in recent weeks and months. Bill 24-246 will help DPR to do its part to staff critical positions with the expertise they require. Members of our community who are already vetted by the district government and know the communities they serve better than anyone. Moreover, through this effort, this further allows DPR to provide safer and more welcoming recreation spaces where community members can gather and engage in positive activities, like our movie nights and our late night hikes events. This bill also supports our partners at DGS by making it easier for the agency to hire retired MPD officers in its Protective Services Division, which helps ensure public safety at the facilities across the district government, including DPR recreation centers. In conclusion, DPR urges the council to approve Bill 24-246, the rehiring of retired officers by the Department of General Services and the Department of Parks and Recreation Amendment Act of 2021. This legislation will allow DPR to build on past successes to enhance our customer experience and resident safety, while drawing upon talent developed here in the district and individuals committed to serving our communities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I look forward to answering any questions you or any members of the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Sort of as a preliminary factual matter, and part of my ignorance here, why does DPR have its own security and not use PSD?
We do in fact use PSD security. We do not have our own security officers.
Okay.
Yes.
So help me clear up confusion about the bill. Why does the bill apply to DPR specifically and not just DGS's Public Safety Division?
Well, the bill would allow us to hire former retired police officers that have skills in the communities that we serve, that they have the community background, they know the communities we serve, they know the populations, they have some of the skills that enable us to provide violence intervention and to provide safe and secure spaces for our recreation centers. But the three primary safety and security positions we would look to primarily hire these retired officers for would be our park rangers, our roving leaders who do community outreach, and our recreation managers, our recreation center managers. We're not looking to police our centers.
I see. Okay. Thank you. And DPR, you mentioned Deputy Director that DPR hired an investigator to do what?
So our investigator will investigate incidents of maybe fraud or abuse, anything that occurs in our recreation centers that requires some additional follow-up, that requires providing statements and just acquiring information. He does not have any enforcement authority or anything like that. If it turns into a legal matter, he would refer it to MPD, but it just is a designated position to address various incidents across our agency.
Okay. Why not utilize MPD or like the Inspector General, other entities that already have like investigative arms?
Well, DPR is a rather big agency. We have a lot of matters that come up, and some of them really don't reach the level of, OAG or MPD. When they do, again, we refer them to them, but, some things just require proper investigation, with someone who has those tools and skills to, and kind of unbiased, is not managing anyone or anything of that nature, that they can go in and just kind of inquire and gather information and then work with the appropriate, whether it's our general counsel or the appropriate law enforcement agency when necessary.
Okay, and you may have said this. Is the investigator armed?
Oh, no, no enforcement authority.
Okay. So in what ways, in what ways are PSD officers sort of like and unlike law enforcement? Director Anderson.
I would say so they have different scopes and jurisdiction. They both carry firearms, but their mission is completely different. So a PSD officer only has jurisdiction over the building envelope that they're securing. So meaning a PSD officer, if at the Wilson building, their jurisdiction does not extend past the curb. If they see an event happening in Freedom Park, their responsibility is to inform MPD. So they're not able to police the area. They're only in charge, or their only jurisdiction is the building envelope. So they do have arresting power. They do carry firearms, but their jurisdiction is a very small scope compared to MPD officers.
Okay. One, over the past couple of years, especially, there's been a lot of public concern about over militarization of the police. Both the director and deputy director, do you all have any concern that we have sort of officers trained sort of in military style, tactical way, becoming PSD officers, what that might do sort of to the culture of PSD?
I do understand that concern, and we do have training in place for our PSD division to ensure that they know and are trained on exactly what their mission is, what their jurisdiction is, what they can, and more importantly, cannot do. PSD officers cannot make traffic stops. PS officers, they cannot, I mentioned earlier, if something takes place across the street, they cannot engage in that activity. They have to inform MPD. So with a series of training and understanding DC's code, understanding your mission as a PSD officer, I do not have that concern.
So you don't think that the sort of existing MPD training would maybe override the PSD training when stuff goes down?
I do not believe so. As a matter of fact, we've had MPD officers act in interim positions within PSD, and they, more than anyone, clearly understood what they were responsible for in that role versus MPD. And so actually found it helpful that we had folks on board that knew the MPD side of the house and could call balls or strikes quickly in terms of where our jurisdiction begins and ends.
Okay. Is there concern from the administration that this bill might incentivize officer retirement at a time when it seems like the mayor is saying we need more officers?
I don't believe so, because the reality of it is we only recruit, Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 to 6 PSD officers per year. So I don't think that would create an incentive for MPD officers to start retiring. I think this legislation, the spirit of this is looking to increase our talent pool of qualified officers to apply for this position. Because the reality of it is the district has invested heavily in these officers over the years with a lot of training that is transferable. And so that is a very talented pool of officers that, we would like to add to our candidate pool. While I think it's an opportunity for retired MPD officers who have put their lives on the line every day for many years, I don't think it would create a incentive to retire within MPD.
And likewise, we're not looking to recruit current officers. We're looking to provide this opportunity for those officers who have already retired, but have built relationships within the communities. They have the tools to support at-risk youth and help to support our programs. And they're homegrown talent. They understand the district and the unique needs of the district and the communities that we serve. So we're not looking to try to poach any officers.
What about screening? So most of our officers are stand-up folks, who really are here to serve the city. Similar to us, but in a much more dangerous, way. But some of our officers do encounter a significant amount of sort of discipline. How would you propose screening to make sure you're getting officers that can maintain their cool in situations, don't have sort of a history of discrimination or anything like that?
That's a very important point, Mr. Chairman, and we are going to continue to follow DCHR's process in terms of background checks, screening, drug testing, reference checks. We also asked for personal references when screening these officers. So I think we have a very good system in place. And we'll continue to work with DCHR to ensure that system is adequate as we move forward. But we do screen every officer that comes in into the PSD division, because these officers are carrying firearms. And so we want to ensure that we are getting the right candidate to serve our communities.
Likewise, we follow the same process with DCHR. While the officers are not armed, everyone within the agency has background checks, suitability checks, and all of those things necessary to serve youth and individuals, and all those critical requirements for dealing with the public and with youth.
Okay. How frequently, Director Anderson, does it happen that DGS extends an offer to a former MPD officer, but then the candidate declines because they don't want to jeopardize their retirement benefits?
It's not often at all, because they don't apply, because they know from the beginning that there's that offset. And so what happens is that MPD officer who the district has invested in all these years in training and all the rest of it, they take that talent and go elsewhere. Okay. And what happened, and on the flip side, because MPD retired officers cannot apply for these jobs, or they can, but are not incentivized because of the offset, we ended up getting officers from other jurisdictions coming here. And so I think it makes a lot of sense to keep that talent here that we've invested in for all these years, and who these MPD officers, they've invested in these communities for these years. And if there's an opportunity for an MPD officer to come to PSD or DPR and continue to serve that community, given the investments that the city has made, or made in them, and then the investments they made in the city, it makes sense to keep that talent home.
So there are a number of former officers from other jurisdictions who work for PSD now?
There are. Our best candidates come have experience as an officer in another jurisdiction or similar experience at the federal level. And what happens is they come in from other jurisdictions here to the city, and our talent leaves the city and goes elsewhere.
Okay. And does DGS have or DPR have reason to think that a significant number of former MPD officers would be interested in working for PSD?
I do, because as you said earlier, Mr. Chairman, we have some very committed officers who have done a yeoman's job in protecting and serving our communities for years, and they want to continue that service. But you know, with the offset in place, it just does not make sense to work or continue to work in the city when they could go to another jurisdiction and earn their full salary in addition to their pension.
For DPR, I think that remains to be seen. We don't have a large number of staff that have that background. We just want to make sure that that opportunity presents itself for those key positions and doesn't limit our candidate pool.
Okay. What gaps exist that you're trying to fill, both Director Anderson and Deputy Director Toppin? I assume that you wouldn't have this bill proposed if there weren't sort of gaps you're looking to fill. So what are the gaps either in personnel or skill sets?
Well, I wouldn't say I don't want to make this I don't want to paint that there's an HR issue here and anything like that. With the spirit of this legislation is really trying to increase our talent pool of PSD officers when there's an opportunity available. And given our history and our work with MPD over the years, it made a lot of sense to us to try to ensure that when an opportunity does avail itself within PSD, we want to have a complete talent pool of former MPD officers who know DC code, who know our communities, who we've worked with in the past and on many fronts to retain that talent as opposed to bringing, and I'm not going to say that folks aren't talented elsewhere, but when you bring folks in from elsewhere, they have to learn our codes, they have to learn our communities, and they may not have the connection like these MPD officers have, especially from the Parks and Rec standpoint of these communities. So that's why this legislation made sense to us. So it wasn't really trying to fix an HR issue. It was just one of those make sense things that, we have this talent we've invested in for many years right here in our own backyard. And why let them go to other jurisdictions when they can continue to serve if they choose to do so?
And let me sort of clarify, I didn't mean to imply it might be an HR issue. I was saying, if there is sort of, whether it has been difficult to fill positions or, if there are just certain skill sets that that former officers have that, people who are not former officers, don't have. So I wasn't trying to imply that.
Oh, no, and I apologize, but and those skill sets do include like canine handling. Deputy Director Toppin mentioned they hired someone for internal affairs investigations. Those are the kind of skill sets that if they've already been doing it for MPD, it's a seamless transition over to PSD because you know the code, you know the communities, you know the laws, and you can bring that wealth of experience to now DPR or DGS.
Have either agencies taken steps to fill out your ranks with existing pay and benefits? That is to say, you can't fill any positions that you can only fill positions that are vacant, right? So I'm
Right.
assuming there are vacant positions somewhere. Have you explored sort of other ways outside of this bill to fill any possible vacancies?
With vacancies, we do post them on various mediums to alert the market that there's an opportunities available. I think our HR team does a good job of that. But in this area that we live in, there's a lot of competition for qualified officers, whether you're looking at the federal level or local jurisdictions. This is a very competitive area. And so that's another reason why I believe it makes sense to, have the option to add retired MPD officers to the candidate pool.
And I would just add that, we don't want to, we will be filling these positions as they arise. We don't have a plethora of positions right now that we're just trying to fill. We just want to miss the opportunity to, hire, again, qualified candidates with skill sets, again, background in the community, violence intervention, things of that nature, community outreach. We just don't want to miss them and have them not be able to apply, limit their ability to apply and to be candidates for our positions.
Sure. Not ignoring what you just said, I hear you, makes sense. But how many vacancies do you have right now in PSD and in these specific positions that you mentioned at DPR?
I think we have about a 15% vacancy rate. Danielle, do you know how many positions that equates to?
We do. We have about 14 positions vacant right now.
For DPR, we were funded for 3 additional FTEs for our roving leaders in FY22. That's it.
Okay. I mean, roving leaders have a strong sort of history in the city for the work they do. I never thought about retired officers being roving leaders. Do you know if any have been?
To my knowledge, there aren't any. Confirm that afterwards. At this time, I have no indication that any of the current staff roving leaders have any MPD background.
Okay.
But I know the roving leaders have a very good relationship with MPD and have had one for many years. So I would expect that they had that opportunity, they may take advantage of it.
Yeah, they do, but they also have really good relationships in the community.
Right.
And I'm not an expert here, so I'm just sort of thinking through it. I wonder if sort of the liaison role that roving leaders play between community members and MPD might be interrupted, but that's not something that we have to settle today. It is something that I'm sure you all will think hard about. Should this bill pass.
Yes, thank you for that, Chairperson. That is something we will consider.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Let me ask you a little bit more specifically, both Deputy Director and both Director Anderson and Deputy Director Toppin. What kind of reviews do you do or would you do regarding disciplinary and conduct issues if you were hiring former officers? And again, I want to be clear, I don't think most officers have significant issues, but we want to be sort of, thoughtful about that.
What kind of review would we do?
Yes, to
you want to
ensure.
explain that process?
Yeah, please.
Hi, sorry. DGS follows all enhanced suitability protocols established by DCHR when vetting these our PSC employees. So we check references, we do professional references, including one supervisor. And it's all the applicants' information is submitted through SOMB process to ensure that they meet all the requirements to be commissioned in the SPO positions.
Okay.
And we would follow we follow the DCHR process as well.
Okay. So does that mean you would not hire an officer who was terminated for cause?
No, not terminated for cause.
Okay. One concern I have, I can't recall what sort of disciplinary records are available. So as you would do sort of, your due diligence, do you know if you would have access to sort of the number of complaints against an officer? Because I don't think those are, I'm sure those are not public. What I don't know is whether or not DCHR or you all would be able to access that.
Unfortunately, we don't get that information.
Yeah, I don't believe DGS would have the ability to access that. DCHR may, but I would need to verify that.
Okay. All right. That would be a concern. So, sort of to sum up, Director Anderson, I'll start with you, and then Director Toppin as well. What do you anticipate the impact on your agency will be if we don't move forward with this bill?
The impact would be we would have a, I would say, talent and candidate pool of non-district or candidates that are coming or not coming from the district, or who have not had service with the District of Columbia and do not understand some of the things we talked about earlier in the DC Code, do not have the connections with the community that our retired MPD officers have. So we would lose that piece.
And I would echo Director Anderson's statement. I think that we would just lose out on a good quality candidate pool that are going to take their skills and assets someplace else where we can use them right here.
Is there anything else about this bill that you like to mention or discuss before we close out?
Danielle, did I miss anything?
No, sir, you've covered everything.
Matt, was there anything that we need to cover?
No, sir.
Okay, I think we're good, Mr. Chairman.
And, Deputy Director?
No, I think we've covered everything. I really appreciate and thank you for this opportunity to even share with you, why this bill would really bring value to our agency. So thank you for hearing us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all for being here, for participating in this hearing. I do want to mention that for anyone who was not able to testify, written testimony is welcome and encouraged and will be made part of the official record. Anyone, if you are interested in submitting testimony by email to the committee, you can send it to facilities@dccouncil.us, facilities@dccouncil.us. And the record for this hearing will close at the close of business on Thursday, January 20th, 2022. With that, again, let me thank Director Anderson, Deputy Director Toppin, Ms. Metters, and Mr. Sculf. With that, the business before the committee is concluded. The time is now 11:44 a.m. and this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have a great one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.